So I think we're just waiting for Tammy and the chief, if that's correct. Is that right on your end?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, since we've got our engineer here, would it make sense to get him started?
Yes.
Yes, because Ryan, do you have other meetings to go to as well tonight? I don't know how you're running this for the rest of the places.
You know what, Suzanne, I do not. Somebody else is covering the top 10 meeting tonight, so you can have me as long as you want me.
Okay. Well, I don't know that there's a reason to wait, since for the majority of people are here and we're not really sure Tammy's going to be able to join us because of her traveling situation. So why don't we move forward? So we will be recording via audio this meeting based on information that Andy provided to us at the in between the last two meetings, in between this meeting and the last. So just be aware that the meeting is being recorded at this time, or will be recorded, and that for a period of time, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, we'll retain that recording of the meeting and it'll be available. Okay, but we just have to work out some logistical issues, which we'll talk about shortly. So if we can, I know that we've got a roll call, but if we could just go through. Chris, would you mind very much?
Suzanne.
Yes?
Do you just want to repeat that we're recording this? Because now I've turned the recorder on.
Certainly. So moving
forward. So we're going to record the fact that we're recording.
Yes, moving forward, we're going to be recording by audio the Fleetwood Borough Council meetings, and some of the additional logistical issues we're going to work out. So we'll get to that shortly in this meeting, but just be aware that this meeting is being recorded and that it will be available for review by the public or whomever at some point after the meeting. Again, we have to work out some logistical issues, but that will be the plan. Okay, so Chris, can you do the roll call then?
Yeah, so I'm going to read off who's online. Suzanne Touch.
Yes.
Pete Merkel.
Yes.
Pete Merkel. Jim
Yes.
Yes.
Neal. Mark Watkins.
Roger.
Ralph Touch.
Yes.
Colin Boyer.
I'm here.
John Rothenberger.
Present.
Tammy Gore has signed in. Tammy, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm here.
Doreen O'Neill, Secretary.
Here.
Andy George.
I'm here.
Your host, myself, I'm here. Brad Smith from Arrow. And Ryan Kern from Barry Isett Associates.
Here.
And Craig Conrad.
Here.
Is there anybody that I missed? All right, Suzanne.
Okay, I think that we're going to start this evening because Brad, I know that we pay you for your time, if I recall correctly. So I believe that we are going to have your reporting first, and then we'll double back on the rest of the agenda, okay?
Just following the format, do you want to go to Ryan Kearns first?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan, I apologize.
Sorry,
I meant Ryan, I apologize.
Certainly.
And
Let's see. Chris, do you have my engineer's report within the meeting minutes here, or the agenda?
should be up on everybody's screen now.
There you go. There you go.
What's everybody looking at? Okay,
That's good.
Looking at the Barry Isett Associates documentation.
perfect. And everybody also got this via email, Ryan.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll start. The first item on our engineer's report for this month and every month is the Borough MS4 and the pollution reduction plan items. The Willow Creek Stream Restoration Plan set is in the final stages with the following next steps. The plan layout is in PDF format, and it's almost ready for email distribution to the committee, the Willow Creek Committee for the Borough. The plan set with all the details and cross sections that DEP wants to review, that the pre-application is being completed, hopefully in the next week or two. And then we also need to coordinate a Zoom meeting to discuss the plan and comments. For the floodplain vegetation and management, a representative, Christine Meldner from ICIT, met with Craig Conrad on May 19th to review the drainage areas along Willow Creek. Due to some of the locations being floodplain areas and or adjacent to floodplain areas, Craig and Ms. Meldner agreed on designated mowing limits and use of signage along the edge of vegetation to explain why manicured lawn appearance is not being used to the stream's edge. Basically, though, this does not mean that residents will not call in complaining to the borough, wondering why there's high grass adjacent to the stream and the creeks. So you can, hopefully this educational material will help fill the void and you won't get too many calls, but you will get some. Christine Meldner is also to provide Craig Conrad with additional information on the clearing of dead vegetation from the wetlands as recommended by DEP. Regarding the borough's MS4 annual report that goes to DEP, just a reminder that all activities intended to be used for credits for MS4 need to be completed by borough staff or your engineer by June 30th, and that will be eligible included in the 2019/2020 annual report. We'll provide a draft of that report to Chris Young sometime in August, and then we'll get comments and any revisions needed back to us, and we'll submit to DEP by September 30th. The second item on the agenda is just a placeholder. Craig Conrad and I did discuss the water treatment plant stream realignment potentially up there on top of the hill, and that it's kind of on hold for now, but I'm just going to leave that in place if whoever wants to discuss it with us or at a council meeting. And then the third item is the Tannery parking lot. Just an update for those who aren't aware that all of the repaving have been completed. The landscape plantings have been completed as well. The angle parking along Foundry Alley was changed from the approved plans, which had it at a 60-degree angle, to a 45-degree angle for better access to the neighboring garages. And the rail installation, the pavement sealant, and all line striping was completed last week. I spoke to Craig this morning about this project, and he's anticipating a final inspection walkthrough and creating any punch list in about 2 weeks. And that's it for the engineer's report.
Okay. Do I have any questions from anybody for Ryan? Craig, are we supposed to be meeting you and I with anybody? I know that previously you and I had met with Christine for the project. So do we need to do that, or did you handle that already?
To check with her, we had handled most of it. I'm going to check and see what else she needs for the 30th of June, but I thought she had pretty much had everything she needed. But I'll double check with her. If we need to, I can let you know.
Surely. And then we can set up a Zoom call or conference call or whatever we need to do.
Yep, sounds good.
That's the fastest I ever heard Craig talk. I don't know if everybody else's computer came through that way, but
Sorry.
Yeah.
no, Craig, it was compressed, and you gave like a 2-minute report in 30 seconds. So it was very nice. It was sped up for some reason. It was sped up, so it was interesting.
I don't know.
Okay. It looks like that may be all for you, Ryan. And
Okay.
of course, if we need anything from you, we will be back in touch. I know we're going to be talking about the Tannery lot a little bit later, but I don't think it involves any of the engineering issues, right, Pete?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Suzanne, you want me to start off then?
Yeah, I don't think that you
Okay.
need to stay on unless anybody else has a question. Now would be the time to come forward. I think we're good, Ryan. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
All right, Suzanne, just reach out if anything comes up.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Stinsky is trying to join. Steve, are you on yet? No. I think he's having some technical issues.
Why don't we give him a
And
moment?
Tammy may have joined after the announcement that we're recording, so it's worthwhile repeating.
Tammy, we're recording by audio, and we're going to discuss some of the details and logistics later on in the meeting. Just be aware it's being recorded at this time, and it'll be available at the borough office.
And testing, Steve, are you on?
I'm on. It was
Hey,
kind
there you go.
of funky getting on it first, it wouldn't let me come.
I saw you were having some issues, so, okay. Sorry, Suzanne, go ahead.
No problem. Steve, why don't you go forward with the police chief's report?
We need to let Steve know as well.
Oh,
About this.
Steve, as well, you should be aware this meeting is being recorded, and meetings will be recorded in the future as well by audio, and those tapes will be available, or whatever apparatus is going to be used, will be available in the borough office. We're going to work out the logistics. Okay, just be aware.
Sure, sounds good. All right, it was actually a pretty busy month. We had several pretty serious domestic assaults that we responded to in and around the area. Most of those were, they were out of the borough. As far as here in Fleetwood, we had a Fleetwood resident who was tricked into buying $1,100 worth of gift cards and then taking pictures of the numbers off those gift cards and sending them to who he thought was the pastor of the Fleetwood Bible Church. There have been several of those types of things targeting members of that church. Some of them lived in Northern Berks' area, so Bob Wood did a lot of investigative work for their department and found that the scam originated out of China. So there wasn't anything we could do to follow up on them. So just please tell everybody, tell your family and friends, Publishers Clearinghouse, your local church, whatever the case may be. Nobody is going to ask you to buy gift cards to make something right. We even had a report. Somebody called and said that someone called them and said they needed $1,000 to settle a case and claimed to be from the Fleetwood Police. For an old case. So thankfully the person called to make sure everything was going to be okay and they didn't lose anything. But we've had people lose money from $1,000 up to upwards of $20,000 by doing things that you would think common sense means that you would understand not to do that. So please make sure everybody knows that the scam business is doing really well. We had a couple of thefts from township residences that involved the theft of firearms. They don't appear to be random burglaries. They appear to be people that were known to the homeowners and left people unattended. We had a dump truck stolen from out on Willow Road. The owner left the keys in it, and the GPS tracking led to the recovery of the truck, but down in Pottstown. So hopefully they won't leave their keys out in the truck anymore. It's been processed. We're waiting for information to see whether or not we can identify anybody who may have been using the truck. Operationally, we kind of escaped. We escaped this weekend. Sunday, there was supposed to be someone was trying to generate interest in a protest, a Black Lives Matter protest occurring here in Fleetwood. That was I think they were dissuaded and draw the crowd went to Kutztown on Sunday night, who we helped, had a couple people helping, myself and Officers Ruiz and Arndt helped out. So we got through them. Chief Summers sent a nice email back thanking us for assistance, because if something does happen here, we will of course be using them in the college for help. Officer Ruiz completed her formal FTO program, and in the month of May started filling shifts on her own. So she's developing, things are working well. All the officers are healthy. We have no COVID related issues. We're getting a new battery for our unmarked car. And I'm starting to explore some other crowd control and less lethal munitions equipment so we can be better trained and equipped to deal with either violent mental health patients or potentially protests. As I said, regarding the protests, we've seen a bunch of reports of planned protests throughout the county. Luckily, so far, all in the county have been relatively peaceful. The one in Kutztown yesterday, we had upwards of 1,000 people that were there. So all the departments, we've all been working pretty closely with the organizers of these events who maintain they want them to be peaceful. And we've been employing a variety of techniques which so far have kept it so, and we're hoping it continues in the future. So pending any questions, that's really the big stuff that I have for us through this month. Pretty busy. Accidents are way down. You can see we have done a lot of enforcement around in the area, and we're hoping that things stay that way. Anybody have any questions for me?
Steve, I just want to thank you for preparing so well for whatever scenario played out yesterday. I mean, I think you just thought about every aspect and what could happen and how we needed to plan and be prepared. So I just wanted to personally thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody?
Steve, just a follow-up question, or a general question, I guess, is things in Topton and Ruskin Manor, general comments on that so far.
Steve, just to wait a second before you answer.
It seems to be going well. Okay.
That was just wait before you answer. A new aspect of our recording of our meetings is going to be that we will need to identify who's speaking. So the person who said congratulations and thanks to Steve was Tammy Gore. I think that's John Rothenberger asking a question now. So if you could identify yourself before you start, if you wouldn't mind, that'll make it much easier if someone wanted to understand what happened at the meeting. So John, just go ahead with your question.
Was that you, John?
Yes, it was. So the question I had is
Okay, so
your general comments about Ruskin Manor and Richmond, or Ruskin Manor and Topton, sorry.
I think it's going very well. One of the things that have been helping us out a good bit are those online reports. It seems like we're getting more of those. I think that might be a good thing to explore. A lot of departments in the county are using that service, and not just for the reports, but instead of basically, I have a group page off of my personal Facebook page, and that's how we've been communicating. This is a way to have things tightened up with regards to retention records and all that other stuff to go to a more professional service like we have now. And there are a lot of things available. So that's one of the things I'm going to be exploring regarding that and what it would cost us to actually do that. Because right now we're doing that as the free mode that they offered to everybody during COVID. Generally speaking, all the responses throughout Topton and Ruskin Manor have been positive for us. There has been a little bit of frustration and a couple of friction points with PSP operationally, because it's a little bit different the way that we're actually working and doing business with them. In a lot of places, PSP is almost, there's a part, in instances where there's a part-time police department, that police department actually works for the borough or township or whatever it is, and then whenever an officer's not there, everything defers to PSP. And it's kind of an odd thing now because people are calling. Sometimes there have been a couple instances where PSP and us have responded to an incident. We haven't had any problems on the street with handling any of that kind of stuff. But there have been instances where we both respond because somebody called 911 and maybe another party called the state police directly because they're used to doing that. We're trying to put that to minimum by advertising everywhere. If you have an issue, just call 911 and they'll know who to have respond. So there are a couple of those things. We're getting complaints about traffic enforcement and where people are driving kind of fast and recklessly on township roads, and we are addressing those as they come in, and we're working to do better. We're trying to focus more efforts there where the complaints are coming from. And we have a couple of lingering things that came from Topton that we're trying to address. As a matter of fact, when I get done, I'm going to run out to their meeting. But they are, everything seems to be working well. We haven't gotten any negative comments from any of the elected officials at any other places. So I guess things are headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
This is Suzanne Touch again. Does anybody else have anything for Steve? Or Steve, do you have something additional you want to say?
No, the only thing I want to let you know is Ruskin Manor is doing virtual meetings as you are. Richmond Township, I spoke with Brian Warner today, and he said they're still basically closed to the public, but they're having public meetings, so they're really limiting. He knows I'm available if he has any questions, so I haven't gone to one of those since all this nonsense started. And tonight, for the first time, Topton is going to have an in-person meeting, so I'm about to head down there once I get done with you folks. Oh, do you just, and one question that I would just ask for you guys, do you have, I know it's still a little bit early, but is there a timeline when you guys want to start getting some ideas for budget proposals and starting those discussions?
Chris, I mean, normally I thought we started talking about the budget maybe in.
I'm sorry, I just had to step out to open the one door. I'm sorry.
So this is Suzanne. Steve's question was, he wanted to know what the
Chris,
timeline-
just say Steve, whatever you need.
Steve, as long as you maintain the budget, we're good with it. How's that?
Yeah, no, what I was asking,
No.
Chris, is when we start discussing next year's, when do you want to start getting, what kind of timeline are you looking at for initial responses from me about what I'd like to do for next year?
The August, September timeframe. August, September.
Okay, very good. That's all I have, Suzanne.
Okay, so if no one else has any questions for Steve, we're going to allow him to exit the meeting, and then we'll go forward with the agenda. Anybody have anything further for Steve? Okay, Steve, good luck at your next meeting.
Thanks. Just give me a call if something comes up and you need me. Yep.
The next item, this is Suzanne again. The next item up on our agenda is the engineering report with Brad Smith. Is Brad available?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Brad, you've got the floor.
Thank you. 2 months ago, we opened bids for the Locust Street water main replacement. There are two alternatives that are to be considered by the borough with this bid. Alternate one is to fill the existing 12-inch pipe in that road with flowable fill to keep it from collapsing sometime in the future. And alternate two is to remove the pipe in its entirety, the existing pipe, and patch the hole that is then left in the road. So depending upon which alternate Borough Council would like to choose, determines who will be the lowest bidder on this project. If you go with alternate one, which is filling the existing pipe, Brasco Excavation will be the lowest bidder at $276,976. If you go with the remove the existing pipe out of the road, the lowest bidder is A.H. Moyer Inc. at $305,723. Regardless of which option you choose, you did receive a PA small water grant for this project in the amount of $125,000. So that would reduce the borough's cost by that figure. So in order to proceed with the project, we want to know if you want to accept any of the alternates or which alternate you would like to go with.
Pete and John, as the committee chairs for the Water and Sewer Department Committee, can you advise as to your thoughts on this?
Well, the budget for the job was $350,000. I see no reason why you couldn't go with Barasso's alternate one, which would fill that old pipe with concrete. That would be my choice. I think Craig needs to chime in on this also. And John.
This is Craig, and yes, Pete. This is Craig, and yes, Pete, I would agree with you. Alternate one, filling the pipe with flowable fill would be my choice as well. And we can't do nothing. We can't just take the base bid. Reason being, that's a 12-inch water main. When we take that out of service, it's going to be empty. And over the years, that pipe's the old pipe is going to decay and could collapse and cause us problems in the street on the road. So therefore, we have to do, at the very minimum, alternate one, which I feel would be a good fix, and that would give us peace of mind that that pipe is not going to settle in the future.
So this is John weighing in here. Is there going to be any impact if we leave that in there to any other utilities that would go through there? Would we be better off just getting it out?
I don't know if there'll be an impact down the road, John. Craig again. Taking it out is probably, maybe the best solution, but looking at funds and money, especially in this time, I believe the flowable fill is our best solution at the current time. But the choice again is up there.
The as-built plans will show that line as abandoned. So future utilities, even if for whatever reason, if the gas wanted to go in there, they could actually dig out your old pipe sometime in the future. Because, it won't be that hard to remove even with the flowable fill in it.
Good point, Brad.
It's the only reason we're filling it is because if it collapses sometime in the future, it's going to show up in your paving, and if not immediately, in a couple of years. So as the dirt falls into the void, it will create a void under your pavement, and then a truck will drive over it or another vehicle, and that vehicle will cause the paving to collapse and go into the hole.
Okay, it sounds as if we've heard from our teams on this. This is Suzanne again, I'm sorry. It would appear that we would need a motion to accept Barrasso's base bid plus alternate one for $276,967. Do we have that motion?
I'll make the motion. Pete.
I have a motion by Peter Merkel. Do I have a second?
John will second.
I have a second by John Rothenberger. Do I have any further discussion on this? Okay, no further discussion, then we'll go forward. We're going to have a roll call vote so that everybody can be identified because of the way that we're going to be capturing the information on this meeting. So, Chris, would you mind very much doing the roll call, please?
No, but Doreen, you're recording this accordingly, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just going to go down the roll. Suzanne?
Yes.
Touch?
I vote yes.
Pete Merkel?
Yes.
Jim Mills?
Yes.
Mark Watkins?
Yes.
Ralph Touch?
Yes.
Colin Boyer?
Yes.
John Rothenberger?
Affirmative.
And I think that's everybody.
Okay, that motion carries with no, oh, I'm sorry. Any objections to that motion? Okay, that motion carries then. I apologize, got ahead of myself counting up all the people who had voted. All right, that motion carries then. Terrific. What are our next steps, gentlemen?
I will send a notice. This is Brad Smith, sorry. Arrow will send a notice of intent to Barrasso. We'll try to get insurances and bonds from him for your next meeting, and then you'll be able to execute the contract and proceed with then a notice to proceed to Barrasso to do the actual construction.
That sounds great. Brad, do you have something else that you're reporting on as well?
Arrow prepared and submitted draft copies of your tapping fee calculation for both the water and the sewer. So those are provided for your review. If you don't have to charge the full amount as listed there in either tapping fee, but if you also have to decide who actually, like the sewer one will have to be adopted by the sewer authority because I believe they own the sewer. If the sewer authority is also the owner of the water facilities now, they will need to adopt these tapping fees. So that will need to be determined moving forward. But yeah, that's all I have.
So, a point of order, Suzanne, and I apologize. I rearranged the agenda. People are trying to follow the one I sent out. I moved this from below up to where Brad is here in case people had questions on it. Everybody already had the paperwork, but while Brad was still online, he and I talked, it would be better to put it here. So Pete, I didn't know if you wanted to say something about this instead of at your position.
Yeah, the sewer, the way you figure a tap-in fee, you value this, you value the sewer system, and then the engineers do a calculation. So the sewer system's valued at $30,170,000. We could be charging ballpark $8,000 per EDU. We are charging at this time $3,000 per EDU. The water value is $24 million. Right now, we're charging $1,800 per hookup. It isn't even based on EDUs for some unknown reason. But we could be charging $5,500. I can't read it.
5370.
What is it?
5370.96.
50.
$5,370.
Okay, we could be charging that amount of money per EDU. So Chris and I talked about this today. We're going to go out and get a couple examples of other boroughs of our size, see what they're charging, and come up with a number. But here again, we're cheap as hell. So we're going to come up with some ideas on that and get back to you.
Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss with Brad before we let him exit the meeting?
Yeah, it's John Rothenberger. One question on the Locust Street project. Is there a timeline for that? Do we need to be in a particular time to not have problems with the grant?
The grant expires in June of 2021.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be an issue.
Anybody else have any other questions for Brad? Kristen, looking over the agenda, is there anything that we need to discuss with Brad that's up under another subheading?
Not that Brad and I discussed it briefly. I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Okay. If no one has anything further from Brad, then you are excused from the meeting.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome. Take care, everyone. Stay healthy.
Chris, is the next item, or did you open up the phone lines, or I'm not sure where we are in terms of the guests?
I will right now. We have one guest, Denton, and not sure if he had any. Denton, you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Denton, do you have a particular issue that you want to discuss, or are you just checking in with us?
I'm mostly just checking in with you. I did talk to Chris earlier maybe it was late in May, early June, that I see an exceptionally high volume of triaxle truck traffic. They come down the Walnut-Town Road and then head north on Richmond Street to Richmond Road. And they also come straight through Richmond Street and continue out Richmond Road. And it just seems exceptionally high volume to me. I thought I'd mention it because some of these guys load, and I know they load heavy. And I was concerned about the streets, not to mention, although in this particular moment, there's no school, but in either case, whichever company is hauling, one is Lakeside and the other I saw was Pennyco that I got names on them. In either case, they're going past the schools. That was all. I just an observation I made, and I didn't think it was necessary for them to use us as a bypass.
We can bring that, and Denton, can you say your first and last name, please?
Denton Schucker, Schucker.
Thank you, sir. I don't believe that we've got any, if I remember correctly, I don't think that we have any weight restriction signage on those streets.
This is Denton again, and you do not. You do not. And I'm not asking that you do that. I'm just reporting an observation.
Well, we certainly can bring this to the chief's attention to make sure that, to see what's going on, to take a bird's eye view of it. That would be, and we can have the, perhaps the public safety committee and Tammy's liaison work with the chief, just bring that to his attention to make sure that who's driving on our roads and make sure that they're obeying the appropriate, speeds and everything.
It's Denton, and it's a public road. I understand that, but past history that I've had with these folks is when you get to the school zone, you'll find that they're not obeying that when school is in session.
Denton, what I'd like to be able to do too is just to, if you could just make sure that you just text or email Chris your phone number, I'll forward that over to the chief so that he can follow back around with you as well. Is that okay?
That's fine. Chris has that available. And
Yeah,
we're in the phone book.
And you can, that's fine. I also have it on my list to discuss with Steve. We kind of have an ongoing, I want to say a regular meeting, but hasn't been so regular with everything else going on. But this is one of the things that I would bring to his attention. We do it for codes. We do it for, traffic complaints that might come through. Rather than do it on randomly, we kind of try to do it a little bit more regular summary type thing. So by all means, you guys can reach out, but it's also on my list to talk to him as well.
This is Denton again, and I'm not asking you for any regulations. I'm just giving you an observation, and these stop signs tend to not have too much effect on those guys.
Well, and Chris, maybe we can just make a note on our calendars as we get, assuming school goes back into session as it naturally does in August and September, that prior to that, we just have a conversation with the chief, because as the COVID situation has occurred in many locations, I would suspect that people, because school has not been in session and it's not been in session longer than usual, perhaps people are not as aware or paying attention to things that they might have before. So perhaps we could revitalize people's understanding of what the speed limit is, and have some presence out there before school starts, just to make sure that everybody's back into the normalcy of what driving in a residential area should be like.
Sounds good.
Hey, Den, this is Jimmy Neal. Is there any particular time that you're seeing these trucks go through? Like, is it early afternoon? Is it morning? Or is it any time?
Denton again. I saw one, this is Monday, so it would have been last week, running at 8:30 at night. I saw one running yesterday, Sunday. So, it's just a shotgun affair. And,
I think that they haul compost out to the mushroom farm out there. I mean, they've been doing that for years.
Denton, I see them with their tarps over the beds going towards the high school.
Okay.
You mean heading south?
Heading south, yes.
I have no idea what that would be.
Again, just an observation. Just wanted you folks to be aware of it. That's all.
Okay, well, it's on our radar. Thank you, Denton.
Thank you.
Sure, certainly. Moving on with our agenda, we're going to be moving to the discussion of the recording of the meetings. We had requested that Andrew George provide a legal opinion so that we could navigate our way through our new world. And so, Andy, if you wouldn't mind going over what you ascertained.
Sure. This came out last meeting. I don't think I need to rehash the events of the last meeting, but the questions that came out of the meeting were, the discussion was about recording of the meeting. And, I said, well, I've seen on numerous occasions residents will record meetings, and it is done via video, or it's done by voice recorders, and really that is permissible under the Sunshine Act. And other municipalities have imposed rules on the recording, along with generally a resolution that also discusses like meeting decorum and protocol. So that question was answered, but the other question was, well, what happens if a council member or a township supervisor wants to record it? Is that any different? So, and then also there was that issue kind of woven in there with, posting it after it's recorded on social media. So we took a look at that. Courtney Berg did an extensive memorandum of law on the issues. And so basically everybody read it. I've circulated it. Hopefully you've had time to get through it. Along with that, there were attached a couple sample or form resolutions from other municipalities, one from Berks and one from Chester. And the bottom line is that, yes, it can be recorded. Doesn't matter if it's a resident, a taxpayer, or a council person. Can the municipality put rules on it? Yes, they can. And like Suzanne's been doing tonight, it should be announced that, hey, this meeting is being recorded. Generally, you can say it's being recorded for purposes of documenting accurate minutes, if that's all that you're doing with the recording. But if you're recording it to potentially, put it on a website later, then you just say that this meeting's being recorded. The kind of the tricky part, I guess, is that then there's maybe triggered some requirements with keeping those recordings. So if there's a right to know request, that be preserved, and it's an easy question as far as like how long you preserve it. If you're only recording it to make sure that the minutes are accurate, well, then you only need to keep that recording until the minutes are finally then approved. But if you're recording it to then memorialize or document it on a website, for example, you would have to keep it longer. And the question is how long? Well, we don't really know because there's no good, clear answer. I think the memo said it has to be kept as long as it has administrative value, but there's no real good definition of what that is. But anyway, it just gets a little tricky with the retention requirements, and then posting it on social media, of course, there's risk there just because somebody else could take it and chop it up and who knows what with. But anyway, the memo was kind of designed to provide some clarity, some guidance, and then maybe, council wants to kind of take a look at this and you know, put pen to paper with a resolution. So, and it could be similar to the ones that are attached. Those are the ones that I found. Maybe you want to reach out to some neighboring municipalities. I haven't done that. I just kind of grabbed the two closest ones that I could find to see if they have anything in place. But there's only one municipality that I represent that has such a resolution in place. And I provided that one with the memo. So that's where we are at this point. Are there any questions?
Suzanne, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
No, Suzanne, I didn't know if.
Did you, I got to the end of what I was talking about and I asked if anyone had any questions.
Yep, and I think I don't see Ralph and Suzanne on here.
And then, yeah, and then it just kind of got silent.
Yeah,
Chris, this is Craig. I saw
Ralph
on the
and
top of
Suzanne.
my screen, it said Suzanne and Ralph Tutts left the meeting, so I don't know if they
Yeah.
got disconnected.
Let me try to text one of them and get them back online. This is
Usually
a
the
bad
mute
timing.
buttons usually the mute buttons are right next to the speaker button.
Boy, I'd hate to go through all that again.
No, they're not on. They left. You left the meeting.
Right.
That leaves Pete in charge.
Yeah. Should I email it to you?
I knew somebody was going to say that.
Looking out for you, Pete.
All right, I will do. All right, Suzanne did get dropped and they're trying to reconnect. So there's going to be a lengthy pause until I can get the phone number to them because I have to look that up now. Smoke them if you got them. Talk amongst yourselves.
Chris, did you and everyone hear the entirety of what I was saying? Or did I get cut off? Okay, all right.
No, I had it all.
Okay.
I heard everything. Pete.
Well, thanks
Would
for
you
listening.
know if you didn't hear everything?
That's true. It sounded consistent anyway.
Okay.
Well, we could replay the recording and you could hear it again.
I don't need to hear that again.
All right, I just texted Suzanne the call-in information, so she's going to hopefully call in shortly.
Maybe we'll all be together next month, right?
I would hope so. I was looking to see if there's anything we can talk about while we're waiting for Suzanne, but everything is relatively important. So what we can do is jump to because this is easy, the parking ordinance revision, Andy. It's also under your agenda item.
Oh, for the Tannery lot, or as it pertains to the Tannery lot parking, right?
Well, it's twofold. So yeah, we were updating it. I think back in February we talked about it, and then of course COVID hit. But it's been revised to have 2 or 3 hour parking. I know that was one of the revisions. There were some other revisions in there.
Yeah.
And we were going to bring it to council shortly, but Pete's going to go over some Tannery things that we might want to put in there. So we're holding off rather than trying to do multiple ordinances, try to wrap it into one and be done with it.
Good. I have I know I have a working draft that Alicia did start, and if February, yeah, it makes sense to me because I haven't thought about it really since then. But so we've already started that draft, so it should be pretty easy to to put in what we need after tonight's discussion, and then circulate it with highlights with, hey, here are the changes.
All right, I believe we have an iPhone participant in.
Yes.
Yes, that's Ralph and I are on that because I don't know what happened. I apologize. It just blinked out and it won't come back no matter how we try. So there we have it. So
Thanks, welcome back.
Right. So I apologize. We had started with Andy's discussion, or at least when I had dropped off. I'm not sure if anybody picked it up in between. This is Suzanne, but if nobody did, then Andy, could you continue with what you were talking about, or have you completed what you were talking about?
I completed the discussion, and it was absolutely fascinating. I mean, you don't know what you missed.
Riveting.
It was riveting. It was riveting. Yeah.
I have no doubt. So
I summarized the memo, Suzanne.
That's fine.
And
Not a worry. That's what I had assumed that you were going to be doing. So that's fine. So
and
then
where I left off was kind of I asked if there are any questions, but I kind of left it with council to say, now is probably the time where you take a look at it and figure out where to go from here. Like, do you want a resolution that will, put this guidance on paper?
Andy, are you saying that we can make rules up about how we record or what's done with it?
Exactly. Yes.
I think the thought would be, because this is a little uncharted territory for us, that my recommendation would be, well, first of all, and I apologize that we didn't do this at the beginning, we really need to have a motion, I believe, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, a motion to confirm that we will be recording this meeting. So I think we needed, and I apologize, we didn't do that at the very beginning. We did tell everybody it was going to be recorded, but we have to confirm with council that that's the plan, because that's not what we were doing before. So probably preliminarily, we should get that done. And then we can move on with my recommendation would be to create a committee to review the analysis that Andy provided, work to discuss what additional other boroughs are doing and what other people are doing in this new world, and then come back and make recommendations to the council for the next meeting, which we can probably put into place fairly quickly. Some of the issues that would have to be determined, as I see it, is that recording the meeting is not in itself problematic, but then issues occur with where it's stored, how people can get to it, how long we retain it, if retaining it causes any issue with our ability to retain such information on our systems, and if there's any additional budgeting that has to be determined because of that. And of course, working with our solicitor so that we assure that whatever plan we come up with meets the qualifications of the Sunshine Act so that we can make sure we're in compliance.
The good thing is that this would be done via resolution, so there's no required time period to advertise. You don't have to advertise, it's a resolution. So it would be a quicker process because of that.
Okay, so then don't we have to go forward though with that first decision, Andy?
Yes.
Okay, so then we would need to make a motion and the resolution would be the one that would outline all of the details, but this motion would be the first one just on recording the meetings. Is that not right?
That's correct.
Okay, so then based on the information that you have to date, do I have anybody that would be willing to make that motion at this time? Sorry,
We're dropping phones and
Turning off.
sorry, we joined by Zoom again, but we've got feedback. So we're coming off of the phone calling. Apologize for that. So do I have anybody who'd like to make that motion? I think as Andy has indicated, it is in his research appropriate that this can be done. So we would need a motion by a member of the council so that we can move forward, at least with that piece of it. And then we're going to move into the next phase, which would be the parameters and the logistics of making this all happen and making it available. Now, council doesn't have to agree to record anything if they choose not to, as I understand it. Is that correct, Andy?
You don't have to. Absolutely not.
So we could go on utilizing our traditional methods of taking down the notes through Doreen.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't think that anybody's making the motion at this time. Andy, I'm not incorrect though, that since it is still allowable according to your research that anybody on our call could be taping the call. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's permitted. Anybody who's a resident, a taxpayer, or or a council member or the mayor could be recording it.
And does anybody have to identify that they're doing that?
I think that the guidance is yes. You do have to say that we are recording this.
But what I meant was if the council's recording it, we would say that. If a guest were calling in, would they have to identify that as well?
Well, right now we don't have any guidelines in place. If we had those guidelines in place with a resolution, then yeah, they would be required to announce it. So
This is John Rothenberger. I'm going to make that motion that we go ahead and pursue guidelines for that.
Okay, John, thank you. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And is that Mr. Touch?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a second by Mr. Touch. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, Chris, could you do the roll call?
This is Colin. I have a question.
Certainly, Colin.
This is Colin again. The original motion was to record the minutes officially by borough. I think John just made a motion to pursue regulations. That's different than the original request.
So John, could you clarify your motion? What we were discussing was to, a motion to confirm that all was in agreement to record our meetings. And then secondarily, the plan would be, or at least record this meeting. And then secondarily, we were going to have the recommendations created by the committee so that we could go forward from there. So what was your thought on your motion?
Okay, it's John again. I'm going to defer a little bit here to Andy, but it was my intent that we would move ahead with guidelines in the event that we would continue to record.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that. I thought that that motion, I thought that the motion to record the meetings was dead because nobody made the motion. I thought John's motion was just a new motion that would put guidelines around meetings being recorded by third parties, not necessarily like a council recording. If borough council was going to, record it and put it on the website, for example. But I misunderstood then, if that's, John was actually making the motion to record meetings by council, but also to put restrictions on recordings. Is that right, John?
Was that this is John again, was that your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation would be to have a resolution that covers how meetings are run and how the public, comments could be limited by time if need be. And also that deals with recording of meetings, whether it's audio recordings or video recordings. So I would recommend any municipality have those rules in place, just in case they would need to be enforced. So you have them in place, and it's a good thing that you have in place. Whether council would choose to record the meeting and post it somewhere, that's completely a policy decision. It's up to council. I really don't have a recommendation on that. It's just whatever makes you feel most comfortable. There are some municipalities most municipalities don't record their meetings. Some do. Colin mentioned the county commissioners meetings are live streamed. As far as I know, that's accurate. The borough of Ambler records their meetings and themselves. They record it themselves and they post it on the borough website, I think, pretty soon after the meetings are concluded. And if you go to the Ambler's website, I think you can find them, and they're easy to click on and open up and watch. None really come to mind. None of my municipalities that I represent record. Hopefully that answers your question.
I think I've gotten muddy now. Sorry.
Oh.
I think my understanding was at our last meeting, a question came up about recording the meetings. And I believe we had not yet discussed it with Andy or gotten his research on it. And now we have. So then the question becomes, do we want to record our meetings or not? And I thought that was where we were going with our last meeting, but perhaps I'm mistaken. But if no one wants to make that motion, then we can forego all of this and we can go. We do not have to record our meetings in the future until such time as a motion is on the table to do that.
I agree.
I'm going to withdraw my motion. Sorry, this is John. I'm going to withdraw my motion in its entirety.
Okay. Do we want to consider, and I don't know, it's council's determination. Do you want to record the meetings so that we can utilize it as a basis for Doreen to be able to update the minutes? that's another opportunity. And then at some point we could, once the minutes are authorized, and she has that ability to go back and double check the recording, then we could dispose of the recordings. Of course, that would all have to be outlined in our resolution. Is that an opportunity? All right, well, if...
All right, this is John again. I will weigh in on that one and enter a motion to do what you just said. To record them for the time period that it takes for the minutes to be created from them, and for that purpose only.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion. This is Ralph.
I have a second from Mr. Touch. Do I have any further discussion?
So let me get this straight. You're going to record the meetings. It's going to be not disseminated to anyone. It's just for Doreen. And then the recordings will be destroyed.
Yes, I think that we would have to still make recommendations about and this is up to council as well, we would have to make parameters of how long they would be kept. But if we all agree that that's the plan, then we would be retaining them for a date certain until such time as the minutes were authorized. And once the minutes were authorized, it would seem that we could, if that were the plan, if that were the determination, we would dispose of them thereafter.
This is for Doreen and only Doreen.
Andy, that's an opportunity, is it not, that we can retain them for just the use of clarifying the minutes? Is that not right?
Right. That is done typically. Most municipalities will set an audio recording on the table in front of the secretary or wherever. Usually the secretary is in charge of it and, would need to flip the tape, for example, when it's being recorded. But yeah, that is done commonly. And the announcement at the beginning of the meeting is that, we just want to make everybody aware that this meeting is being recorded, and it's being recorded for purposes of accuracy of the minutes. And then the tape, or whatever it is, tape usually is kept until the next meeting when the minutes are approved. Usually it's the next meeting. And then the tape is reused, it's wiped or whatever.
Okay, this is John, and that's what I made the motion for. That would be used only for the purpose of the completion of the meeting minutes and accuracy in the meeting minutes. That was my intent.
I'm sorry, John. It is extremely helpful to whoever is doing the minutes. And I'm sure Doreen would agree that would be helpful.
New way.
The only other additional information that I think came to light through Andy's research is that in the new world, there is no control over this. So even if we have one copy and we utilize it for Doreen to go over the minutes, anybody involved in our calls or meetings can have their own recordings and can utilize them as they choose, because we wouldn't have any control over that.
Does anybody have to let you know that, this is Tammy, does anybody have to let you know that they are recording, even a guest of the meeting?
No, I mean, that's the second piece of this, is that we would have some sort of resolution in place that would require that announcement. And Tammy, I mean, all this stuff with the Zoom meetings is all new. I don't know of anybody who has a resolution that deals with Zoom recordings, but ours would deal with this. It's going to have to.
Well, the other thing we need, this is Mark, another thing we probably need to discuss is what happens when this is all over and we're not Zooming anymore? I assume we're not going to Zoom forever. What do we do then? Are we still going to record?
Well, I understood that that was part of the
I'm
discussion.
sorry, this is Chris. Correct. Chris weighing in, but that's one of my cautions. This isn't just Zoom. If we decide we're going to do it, that's fine. We'll just have to purchase a recorder to do it in the future, because we're not going to Zoom once we're back in session. Not a big deal. He's very easily done. Like Andy said, it's a matter of fact, there's several groups I go to with their monthly meetings. They record it. The secretary has it.
It's a handheld dictaphone, really, is all it is.
Yeah, a little digital recorder.
Right.
So at this juncture, we've got a motion and a second, I believe, to allow for the borough meetings to be recorded for the purpose of Doreen's use alone. Is that my understanding so far?
That is correct.
Do we have any further discussion on this? Okay, then let's take the vote then. So Chris, can you call the roll, please?
Is that a cue for me? I'm sorry.
Yes, please. That's
Is
okay.
that me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Suzanne Touch,
I vote no. I think that we should.
Pete Merkel.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, I cut you off, Suzanne. Continue.
No, all I was going to say was I think that if we are going to tape the meetings, then we should consider the full gamut and retain a copy. So I'm going to vote no.
Pete, sorry, go back to you.
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Colin,
I abstain.
What's the basis for the abstention?
I haven't really thought about that particular issue, that such a tight detail. So I haven't had a lot of time to think about that particular issue. So I don't really know what my thoughts are. That's why I have to abstain.
John Rothenberger,
Yes.
That's it, right? So we have a
correct.
we have a quorum with 5 votes yes on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then that motion carries. So then I think the next appropriate thing is, since I think that we need to just have the communications committee review what the parameters were going to be, how long they're going to be kept, just to make sure that we're doing everything, appropriately, working with Andy. I believe I'm on the communications committee, but I think that I would prefer if I stepped off, and my recommendation would be to have Mark and John, Mark Watkins, John Rothenberger, work with Doreen and Tammy on this, and of course dovetailing with Chris and Andy George to make sure that we are bringing in all the information, and then it can be presented by that committee at the next meeting. So if you will all accept that appointment, that would be great. And if you could report back at the next meeting, I would appreciate it.
I will.
Suzanne, it's John. Could you repeat that, what you said there?
So
What the expectation is?
the idea for the committee would be that that committee would look at, since this is a new world, just look at what is going on with other boroughs or municipalities, just double checking what the parameters are going to be, where it's going to be housed, how long it's going to be retained, whether or not it's going to be placed on the website and then taken down, those kinds of details. And then we can put that all in resolution form so that you know, and decorum issues, and Andy can go over those with you as he sees them from other municipalities. And then we can put together a package, or you could put together a package that you would present at the next meeting. And then we can discuss it further in terms of the fine details of this. Because we still have the issue of retaining it, how long, where to retain it, so on. Make sense?
So part of my motion was that it would be retained only until Doreen posted the minutes.
But I
So
think
if we're talking about something future, that's something completely different.
Well, I think that we haven't had remember when Doreen prepares the minutes, they still have to be authorized. So you may want to build in some time to make sure that they are reviewed at each meeting, or if there's an issue. So that allows you to figure out what that time period would be.
So that's a completely different recording situation than what the motion was, which was to record the meeting for the purpose of accuracy for the minutes until the minutes are posted.
Right, but the minutes don't get posted till they're approved, and they get
Correct.
approved at the next meeting possibly, or sometimes they've not for whatever reason. So this was
Correct.
just to make sure that you're building in the specifications about this, because it's new.
I'm not sure I understand what other specifications there are, because there's no other guidelines that we've talked about in that motion, or no other things to.
Well, John, this is Tammy. Why don't we just have even a chat conference call or a meeting, and then we can clarify that in our recommendation. So we can say exactly that, and that they will be destroyed, erased, whatever, as soon as they're approved, period. So that, they're used for the minutes, and as soon as those minutes are approved, then the tape will no longer exist.
That makes sense to me.
There, if I may weigh in, there might be some other things that the committee, that team would look at, like in between, there's going to be a 2-month lag. How would a right to know request be handled? Are we, and then there's also, I think what Andy is still suggesting is putting guidance on if somebody else wants to record. So this committee could also be tasked with that as well.
Correct.
Yes, we have to talk about that, and just the requirement of people announcing that they're recording, and making that part of the requirements. I think those are the things we can talk about, John, and not change what the motion was.
This is Colin.
So
I have a possible suggestion.
Go ahead, Colin.
Did anybody ever think about issuing press releases for the more important decisions that are on at the public meeting? You don't have to post every single item on a meeting, but we could issue a press release maybe that same week for the more important decisions that council make. Therefore, the public might be more informed sooner. It doesn't have to be on our website. It could be posted or sent to the Patriot and the Reading Eagle. And if they want to report on it, they can. That's just one idea that I had.
It's not I mean, that's sounds like a good idea, except I think I would add the caveat that things are going digital, and newspapers are somewhat becoming a thing of the past. So, perhaps we could include some digital form. I don't know, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, but which I think is kind of what we do by using the website. But maybe the public doesn't look at that. Is that what you're thinking? That the public doesn't see that?
This is Colin. I don't know.
I don't
I've
either.
never seen that.
I don't know if people.
I know Chief Stinsky, for the more important investigations and arrests, he sends out press releases, not to the, a lot of times to the press. Sometimes he posts it on the police website or the Facebook group, but not always.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are things we can talk about. So we can include that in the discussion.
And Colin, this is Chris. Just a clarification. You're talking about before the meeting, not a press release that council just did this. This is council is considering this, correct?
This is Colin again. No, I'm saying once a decision has been made officially, we do a press release. Not for everyone.
Oh, okay. All right.
But for the more important ones, might have interest in the public. Not a general release, just a press release. And I know the Reading Eagle does have a very strong online presence, so they don't have to wait for the print edition to come out. They have they post a lot of things directly on their website.
I don't see why that we couldn't do that. That sounds like a way to fill people in, and they don't seem to, even though they know when our meetings are, we don't have a whole lot of visitation or people checking in. So that might be a way to fill people in on what's going on in Fleetwood. So I don't think that's a terrible idea. But again, that would be something that communications committee could review and go forward with, and then make that recommendation. And maybe it's just as simple as after each meeting, the chairperson reviews with Chris what it's going to look like, and they can make the final determination based on the minutes of the meeting. Maybe just that simple. Okay, so I think that's where we are in terms of the recording issue. So at this point, we're going to be waiting to the next meeting to hear back from the communications committee on just the parameters, just the logistics, the nuts and bolts of how this is going to work. And we can go from there. Okay. Andy, I think the next, if we don't have further discussion on that, are we good then?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Okay. So then the next thing is the parking ordinance.
We talked
And
about that.
as you were trying to sign in, we tackled that quickly.
Excellent. Okay, that's fine. Okay, moving on then, down the list of the agenda, we're on the COVID-19 issues. It looks like Mr. Touch is up about the pool opening.
So the pool committee met and we're recommending not opening this year. And that's for the safety of our employees as well as the people coming to the pool. We just can't figure out a way to make it safe and have it open at the same time. So I'll make that motion.
Second. It's Pete.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Touch and I have a second by Mr. Merkel. And this is to confirm that we would not be opening Fleetwood Pool for the 2020 season. Do I have any further discussion? Okay, then if we could please have the roll call, Chris.
I'm going to do it reverse to screw everybody up. John Rothenberger?
Yes.
Colin Boyer?
Yes.
Ralph Touch?
Yes.
Mark Watkins?
Yes.
Jim Meals?
Yes.
Pete Merkel?
Yes.
Suzanne Touch?
Yes. Okay, vote is unanimous and that motion then carries. Okay, moving on. The next item is yard sales, and that's also Mr. Touch.
So since we had the same group together that deals with the community, we tackled yard sales as well. And we're recommending that yard sales continue to go forward, but with a caution that the yard sales have to comply with the governor's current rules about social distancing. And that would be published on the yard sale approval when it gets returned. And I'll make that motion.
This is John, I will second.
Okay, I've got a motion and I've got a second. Do I have any further discussion?
This is Colin. I just had a clarification. This will only last until we're under restrictions, either yellow and green. Once the restrictions are lifted completely, this will expire. Is that right?
Presumably, because it would be connected to the governor's order. So when the governor's order expires, the permission would be green, which would mean you'd be able to do anything. So following the governor's order will end with whatever the governor tells us to do.
Actually, there are restrictions with green. So once we leave green, then there would be no restrictions. That's just
whatever his current order says.
So we're
the only reference would be back to the governor's current order.
So maybe, this is John, maybe what I'm hearing is, was there a clarification you were asking, Colin, that I don't remember if Ralph said that we would do this until it was green, but it's until we're at full open is what I interpreted that as.
So do I have a motion and a second. Colin, you had some discussion. Are you satisfied with the response or do you want more discussion?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion then? Okay, Chris, if you go forward with the roll call.
You betcha. John Rothenberger.
Yes.
Colin Boyer.
Yes.
Ralph Tutt.
Yes.
Mark Watkins.
Yes.
Jim Meals.
Yes.
Pete Merkel.
Yes.
Suzanne Touch.
Yes. Okay, that motion carries as unanimous as well. Okay, and then now the next item on the COVID-19 issues is to be presented by Pete Merkel about the Tannery site parking, Pete.
My first question, first thing is the question, why is this under COVID-19 issue?
That is a very good question.
Because I screwed it up.
It has nothing to do with COVID-19.
Oh, no, it is. No, wait. I didn't screw it up. I may have, because you were going to ask for the exception of no fees, no permits until after all this blows over.
Well, that's your idea. My idea would, well, as everybody knows, I typed up a little summary of our committee meeting. The committee is Pete, John, and Ralph. The Tannery lot is finished. In my opinion, it should be open today. However, and I also, and this is the consensus of the opinion of the committee, is for a period of time, we'll have no rules or regulations or time limits on the main lot. And to me, we're going to get a lot of brownie points with our residences because of that. We're not just opening it and then have 10 different rules right off the bat. May come down the road. And we need some rules about what kind of vehicles are going to be there. We need some rules about what you can do there. You can't work on cars and all that kind of stuff. But my thought would be to let it go for at least till next year. And I thought that was Chris's idea, but I guess it wasn't.
No. It was, let me clarify, Pete. when we discussed it originally, I think the committee was thinking we were going to start permit parking right away. Due to COVID, and Ralph, weigh in, I think this was where you were, due to COVID, the committee is reevaluating charging permits. And that's why it's under the COVID agenda item, as well as the rest of the things that you're presenting there.
Yeah, okay, so, and then the alley parking, angle parking, we were gonna make that 2-hour limit 24 hours a day, so that people wouldn't park there overnight. They can park in the main lot overnight. But my thought is, if you don't put any restrictions on the main lot for a good period of time, people will get used to using it. Tenants who should be parking off-street will be parking there, and they'll get used to using it. And down the road, when you say there's going to be some kind of nominal fee, I think it will go over better. But we need to open the lot. Now, there's some concern about the angle of some concrete. Well, we're going to put some yellow chain up there. People aren't going to be able to walk down on the angled concrete, but I really would like to open the lot.
This is Craig too. I'm just going to weigh in for one thing. I would like to see it open as well. As you saw in my report, we're going to start paving next week, and we're paving the first block of North Richmond there in front of Grand Central. And I would love to be able to tell people when they ask me, where do we park while we're no parking for 2 days during paving, to be able to utilize that lot for them.
And John's going to weigh in here. My concern with opening up without any notification is that we're looking like we're seeing an opportunity to strike after we've suckered people in, is not the best way to put that, but my preference would be to open it, but that there's some signage there that indicates that it will be free parking until the end of the year, so that people understand that it's free until a certain point, not that it's going to be free forever. And then it looks like, 9 months from now, 6 months from now, we say, oh, we're going to charge you now that you're all used to using it. I'm concerned about the optics of that.
Couldn't this
So
be? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, couldn't this be an opportunity for the idea that Colin had for the press release, where we could have a press release indicating that it's going to be open, that because of COVID-19 issues, we are allowing full parking of that area utilized however way the committee determines, and that people should be aware that although it's free from opening day till whatever date in the press release, that we anticipate that at some point there will be permit parking, but for the time being, it will be available to Fleetwood residents and patrons to the locations to help support the businesses during this time, so on and so forth. I mean, that might be a great opportunity to utilize what Colin said, tell people about and that's a great idea. I mean, I think that's a great opportunity for us to do something nice for the town. I appreciate that we've got bills to pay about that, but people don't have jobs and are having difficulty. So they're having just as much trouble with their bill paying as well. So maybe that's a good thing.
I think that's a great idea, Suzanne. Till John composes the verbiage on the sign, that'll take 2 months. Then to get the sign made, that'll take another 2 months. And, we need to just open the lot and go forward.
That someone did mention to me something about lighting at that location and in that little, that area that we've created, the walkway. So we just want to make sure that, and I know you know this, Pete, that our lights are all on, that they're the right lumens and everything to make sure everybody's safe out there and that everything's in order. But I think as long as that's true, and of course the rest, everybody can take a vote on this. And I thought that there was something with a sidewalk. So we want to make certain that whatever that repair is noted and visible, whether it's night or day, to make sure that we don't have any issues there. So do I have a motion then so that we can open up the parking free after the utilization of a press release?
I'll make the motion. Pete
Okay.
made the motion.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Mark seconds it.
Mark seconds it. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion?
I agree with the signage, but it shouldn't be a gating item to open the lot. I think we should open the lot and move forward with the signage at the same time. And if it takes 4 months for the sign, that's fine, as long as it's spelled correctly. But I think the sign is a good idea, but it shouldn't gate opening.
Okay.
And I'm just going to jump in. This is Craig. So the only thing that I want to know then is, will I be able to open this for paving next week for people to utilize as a place to park when we don't allow them to park on their street that we're working on?
Well, what we can do, to answer your question, Craig, we should be able to do that, assuming we can get this press release out. So once we go forward with this motion, then perhaps Pete and John and Pete and John can work with Chris and create the press release and get it published.
It'll be in
I'm
the
notifying
website
residents
as well.
now. Yeah.
It'll be in the
residents now of our
It'll
work.
be in the paper tomorrow.
Okay.
But we have to finish the motion. So, okay.
Yeah,
So
no
we've
problem.
got, I think we've got a motion. We've got a second. We've had all kinds of discussion. Is everybody happy with the discussion so far? Or do we need anything further?
How long is it free for? Until December 31st?
No, we don't have a date. Just, it's
Okay.
open-ended.
Okay.
Until further notice. For
We can
Doreen's
put
minutes,
something
is
in.
that correct?
Yeah, this is John. We could put something in there that we anticipated would be no sooner than the end of the year. I think that's what we talked about before.
I think that would be the right, I mean, you certainly can make the recommendation, but I think that might be the right idea. You want to give people the idea that it's not going to change in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, yes.
Right.
Okay. That sounds fair. Okay, so we've got a motion, we've got plenty of discussion, we've got our second. So do we have, so Chris, can we do the roll call then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Suzanne
John says
Touch?
yes.
Well, John's jumping the gun.
Well,
Suzanne Touch?
you're going the other way again.
Because I like mixing people up.
We're on our toes, Chris. Who's next?
All right, Suzanne,
Fine with me, yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Uh-oh.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer,
Yes.
John Rothenberger.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you in the middle next time, John, just to really screw you up.
Thanks.
Okay, that motion carries then. So then the plan will be, is that Pete and John are going to work with Chris to get that press release out. Basically, you're going to say that it's going to be open. You want to, I believe, and incorporate this into the motion. I'm assuming that everybody's in agreement with what Pete had in his June 5th memo. So those things will have to be included in our press release, will it not?
Yeah, and we'll fine tune it and run it past Suzanne and Tammy as our part of our wordsmithing. But we'll have it to the press this week.
Everybody in agreement then, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think Pete's going to be visiting me tomorrow morning.
I'll be there. I'll be waiting for you at the door.
I'll bring coffee.
Thank you, everybody. And the Fleetwood Bank thanks you also, because they're kind of waiting for this parking also.
Of course.
This is John. I got two questions. One is, are the Fleetwood Bank reserved spots identified well?
No.
Only when the bank purchases signs to indicate where they are. Right now, our contract is we supply X amount. That's it.
Okay.
This is all stuff that has to be worked out.
Okay. That was the first question. And what was the second question?
But John, following up on that, so everybody knows, there's like 188 spaces. So the bank gets like 25. So there's more than ample. There's not going to be a conflict yet.
Okay. And the second, I guess, is more of a statement rather than a question. Is when we do this press release, we should probably get it to Steve to put out on the Fleetwood Police Department page, as they have a pretty good following on their end too.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, moving along. I think we're at number 7, if I'm correct. We're at the manager's report. Chris, that's you, right?
It is. Okay. So looking at the time,
Excuse me, Chris.
hello. Yes.
The other item that's on, oh, sorry, it moved. Sorry, I'll be quiet. Continue, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
So,
okay, so to try to make this.
John, should I hit the first one?
Sorry, John, what did you say?
This is John. Should I take the first one here?
I think the first one is the finance report update. Is that not right?
That's correct. So we met last week.
No, wait, John. No, this isn't your cue yet. This is from last month. I had sent out a significant PowerPoint itemizing the expenses and the income year to date with plenty of information for everybody to digest. Since you now had 2 months to digest it, I'm sure you poured over it, and I didn't know if you had any questions. This was the summary page on that PowerPoint. So in a nutshell, the expenses are as expected year to date. The capital projects we put on hold, the ones that we could. So we deferred $200 of spending. The part-time labor was reduced. Employees did not get a raise, and the capital line item in the budget went untouched. So it was $100K. So that's some of the stuff that we, as the borough administration, put into effect to try to curb any COVID type income related issues. The revenue is predicted, this is all over the map, but if anybody just saw the Reading Eagle yesterday, there was another article predicting 11% shortfall. I did quite a bit of research comparing it to 2008, which was the big recession. Most of the experts that I was on with conference calls said, look at 2008, use that as a benchmark. Of course, no one knows what 2020 is going to bring, but using it as a benchmark and see how your borough fared. We actually fared pretty well. We're already greater than 90% of our real estate taxes have come in. In fact, we're at 96% when I checked this morning. EIT, we're about 46%. We're halfway through the year. Police billing shouldn't be impacted unless there's a major Rusk Manor, Topton, Richmond revolt that they can't pay. So all things being equal, it looks like we might be in the $100,000 shortfall this year. And the good news is that $100,000 shortfall is already as a capital line item that we're not going to touch. So I don't think we have to panic. We still have to be very conservative in our spending, because July and August EIT will be the factors. So when it comes to September, we'll be able to have a much better benchmark where we're at. And if we want to open up the purse strings and continue some of the capital, that can be, we can determine that towards the end of the summer. That was a couple days research boiled down into 2 minutes. Anybody have any questions? Okay, moving on. Insurance. We're going to save some money if council is approving. We talked to our insurance agents. We challenged them, our insurance carrier, I'm sorry, our broker. We were and are with Travelers currently. Travelers is okay. They're a little rigid in some of their rules. We wanted to try to do a January to December billing. They're set on June to June. They were going to charge us if we've tried to change it. EHD went out and did some research for us and found Selective. Selective is used by a number of municipalities in the area. This isn't Bob's Discount Insurance by far. And by going with them, we could save upwards of $15,000 over a year and a half and have no change in coverage, same or slightly improved coverage. And I sent all these documents out on Friday. Hopefully everybody had time to review them. I didn't know if there was any questions. If not, Suzanne, a motion to switch insurance would be desirable.
Can anybody make that motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
That's a motion by Mr. Touch. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Pete. Let Jimmy. Jimmy
Here we go. We've got Jimmy jumping in. Jimmy Meals jumping in with the second there. Do we have any further discussion on this?
Just a question. It's switching from Travelers to
Selective.
Okay.
Selective.
Just want to make sure I was reading that chart right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
I just had one question.
Sure, Colin, go ahead.
Do you know what I'm asking Chris, do you know what their rating is on the, I forget what the most common rating company is, maybe AM something?
Isn't it AM Best? I think that's the rating.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
AM Best?
I do not know.
I thought.
I also assume.
No, we've got it here. It's attached.
Oh, okay, great.
I think it's attached, and I think their rating is, one second, because the best rating is attached to the back of, or it was part of what you sent over, Chris. So I'm just looking to see where the rating is noted in what they sent you. Give me 1 second. I might be able to find it. Sorry, my puppy decided she wants to weigh in on this as well.
Well, shouldn't exclude her.
Selective. See that they have the attachment.
Yeah, I got it up here now.
Is it A?
I saw A's on one of the pages out there.
I think it's an A rating, Colin. Which puts them in the excellent category. So I don't think that that's a bad marker. Does that meet your question?
Yes, I just never heard of that insurance company, and if their rating is A or higher, then that's fine. I just don't see it on the screen, but I'll take
No, so
here it is, right
what
there.
I'll do is AM Best rating A.
Yes, there it is.
Just some quick research on them is that, yes, they have an A rating and an A+ for insurer financial strength, and they're out in North Jersey.
I have worked with I've come across Selective in the past. I haven't had any issues with them. And like Nationwide and, Farmers and so on, they all are about the same rating pool, I believe. So I think that that's accurate. That's my experience with them in any event. So we had a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Can we get a better deal with Gallagher Bassett? That's a joke.
We don't have, I don't think we've got municipal coverage, so I don't think that we can do that, unfortunately. And that probably
yeah.
be some conflict
like-
of interest someplace, so that probably wouldn't. Okay, moving along. Chris, can you run the roll call, please, for the vote?
Yes, and I'll do it the same way I did last time to avoid confusion. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Mills,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yeah.
Colin Boyer,
Yes.
John Rothenberger.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous then. So that motion then carries. Great work, Chris, looking at that and bringing another putting another $15,000 back in the coffers. Good job.
Every little bit helps. Thank you. All right. So the other quick thing is park events and waivers. The borough-sponsored playground was canceled. It's kind of a mutual agreement with the person that we contract with. The playgrounds are now open as directed by the yellow phase. They are appropriately marked. Andy and I kibitz with the signage that should go up. The restrooms are open. They're cleaned daily. And the pavilion rentals are a go with a waiver that Andy supplied, similar to what we're doing with the yard sales, that as long as we're in a national or Pennsylvania emergency, certain precautions have to be followed.
Chris?
The other thing, yes?
This is Tammy. I had somebody call me and ask if the pavilions are being rented for the summer.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just said that. They are.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely missed. I just drove 12 hours. I missed that. I'm sorry. So the pavilions can be rented and it's up to the rules to social distance and.
Well, we're providing a separate waiver, not that we do our standard disclaimer, and then there's a separate waiver that's included that says thou shalt follow all PA, DOH, and CDC guidelines as long as we're in a national or state emergency.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for repeating that.
Oh, sure, no problem. The carnival was canceled for the July timeframe. The committee and FCCO met, and I believe it was unanimous. Doreen, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So what the FCCO is also entertaining is possibly a food truck event in the park during the week where the carnival would have been, meaning that the Tons of Fun amusement ride would bring their funnel cake, fried Oreos, French fries, whatever, come up. They would set up in the park in a appropriate manner. That they've been doing it at 2 other Berks County locations already where carnivals were canceled, where they either have a drive-in or a parking area and a walk-up like you would for a takeout type thing where everybody's wearing masks and compliant. But the borough would have to approve such a event. So is council okay with having some type of food truck event in the park during the week of the carnival? That would have been the carnival.
I don't have any issue with that if, as long as we'd meet whatever the criteria was that the governor has, whatever's in place for July 21st to the 24th. Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
We probably would have to be green by then, wouldn't we?
I'm not sure.
It would be
How do they work it?
similar. It would be the similar as any takeout place is now. So if you go to Fiore's, you place your order. The person behind you stands 6 foot. You take your order and run. So it would be following that type of takeout guidelines.
Should we put up some
There would
signs?
be no assembling in the park.
Right. Should we put up some signs that say maintain 6 feet apart? Just to kind of cover our liability there. I know a lot of parks I've seen have these red signs with white arrows that say maintain 6 feet apart. I'm wondering if that would be necessary to maintain our, I don't know, liability, if you want to use that word.
I don't think that would be a bad idea. I mean,
More signs,
Cheap,
the
they're made
better.
out of paper. Yeah. I'd feel better about it then, because at least it says, hey, we tried, we told you not to.
One of their, and I agree, one of their scenarios is drive-through. Literally, you never get out of your car. If they choose to do a walk-up, I agree, additional signage would be a good idea. And we would have them supply the signs. This wouldn't be a borough expense.
do they, and I don't know, Chris, if they use the food truck option at the park, do they then pay a percentage of that, what they make back to the borough, or how do we work that? Because wouldn't we have to then
This
go?
would be, but to, good question. They have donated their standard percentage to the sponsoring organization, which at this point, the FCCO is asking permission to do it. So this would be a fundraiser for the FCCO.
Would they also do some of the cleanup after the trucks left, or how would the borough pick that cost up, or what?
No, there's no borough involvement here. When they leave, they take all their stuff with them.
Okay. I'm just trying to be a little cautious, because we don't want to incur a cost, especially when we're trying to watch dollars. That's all. So just to make sure that we're all.
Totally agree.
I think we need a vote if we're going to do this, gang. So do I have a motion for anybody?
Sorry, Suzanne, excuse me. It's Doreen. I just want to throw out that the FCCO also spoke that based on the approval from council, we would also approach the fire police to help assist us with traffic control, and then make a decision on a portion of the FCCO proceeds would then be given to the fire police for their assistance.
Okay.
Good point. I forgot about that. Yep.
Okay. So do I have a motion to allow the potential July 21st through 24th carnival food truck option to go forward? Whether it's going to be a drive-through or a drive-up, walk-up.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Touch. Do I have a second by anybody?
John will second.
John will second. Okay. Do I have any further discussion? Okay. Chris, if you do the roll, please.
Absolutely. Suzanne?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Could I abstain since I'm on FCCO?
That's fine, Jim.
Okay.
Mark Watkins?
Yes.
Ralph Touch?
Yes.
Colin Boyer?
Yes.
John Rothenberger?
Yes.
Okay. In addition, there is the potential, if we're green, that there's entertaining of a mini carnival in August in order to, it wouldn't be a major fundraiser, it would be something that the borough citizens might look forward to, a little bit of get out in the park type thing. The ride company that the FCCO has used has already looked at what rides they could bring if they're green. You know, they wouldn't have a jump house or a fun house where there would just be a crowd in there. They would bring a limited number of rides, keep the social distancing as the people are waiting for their lines, like you've seen Hershey and Thorny and all these other places are doing. And most likely very limited food options as well, similar to what they're doing with the food trucks. So is there any objection to doing, at this point, it's just a what if scenario. There's nothing other than a potential if we're green and everything comes together. Is there any objection to doing something like that?
Doesn't sound like there is, Chris. I don't know that we need to make a motion at this
Nope.
point. Can you just keep us posted?
Agreed.
And then we can revisit it?
Yep, exactly. Yep,
Question that-
perfect.
I'm sorry, this is
Wait 1 second, Chris. Colin, go ahead.
I just had a concern that maybe this is something you should think about is if other groups request to rent out the park when we're in green or do some type of event at the park, we're not automatically denying them without hearing them out. I just don't want to give certain groups special attention. I'm not saying that we should approve every group, but we should not do a blanket denial for other.
So then, would it benefit council that the FCCO reserves the park for that week?
I think that we would have to announce that we would have to make people aware that the park was available for limited events, and then the FCCO or whoever could put in a request, or make a reservation, or fill out the paperwork, and maybe that would be appropriate, because I'm not sure. I see Colin's point. I'm not sure exactly that people recognize that anything could be done or what could be done. So it at least gives them the opportunity to present their idea. Does that make sense? Can we get
Sure.
something out on the website, maybe, Chris? Or I'm trying to think of how we can.
I'm not sure what. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank there.
Well,
but-
I'm trying to
all
think
right,
of how
so
we could tell people they could utilize the park, but it's going to have to follow the COVID requirements of the state.
Could a motion by council now that once it goes green, they would entertain with appropriate precautions groups reserving the park?
I think that's what we're
And then we
saying.
could post that now. Well, but then you could post it now saying council is amenable, agreeable
Amenable.
to.
Yes, you're there.
Using the park. Yeah, whatever. Using the park, and that way we give everybody advance notice. So if everybody says, hey, I'd like to do a car show in August, they could throw the date out there a while, or wait till it's green and then try to reserve the date. So everybody has the head start. I think that's what Colin is alluding to, which I think is a good point. You don't want to do it based on insider information.
Right. I think that's the fairest way to proceed. So do we need a motion on that we will place something on the website to confirm that when we go green, the park will be available pursuant to state guidelines for rental? Is that what we're thinking?
Works for me.
Okay. Does anybody want to make that motion?
This is Jim. I'll make the motion.
Jim is making the motion. Do I have a second then?
Yes.
I have a second by Mr. Touch in the back. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, we're doing it the other way. Chris, I'm sorry, that's old habits. Chris, if you'll run the roll, please.
I will. Suzanne Touch.
Yes.
Pete Merkel.
Yes.
Jim Meals.
Yes.
Mark Watkins.
Yes.
Ralph Touch.
Yes.
Colin Boyer.
Yes.
And John Rothenberger.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
That's 100%. So then, Chris, you'll move to put that information on the website, and
Yes.
perhaps if we're contemplating the press release idea moving forward, that might be included. Whatever
Sure.
items that we covered tonight that move us forward to action, maybe we can add that in a multi-topic press release. How's that?
Agreed. The good news press release, right? Tannery's free. We might have stuff at the park. Okay, keeping on track, the website, we had thought that we were going to have a new website by May. COVID threw us off track, well, threw our contractor off track. She has childcare issues, so she was not able to work. She, as of this week, she's getting back into the swing of things, and we hope to have a website up in July. She's been trying, and we've been conversing as best she can. So there's significant progress, but that is why there is a delay in the website, the new website. And then that's just an FYI. And also, unless council objects, Maiden Creek approached Craig, or Craig approached Maiden Creek, or whatever. Diane Hollenbach from Maiden Creek reached out to me and said, would Fleetwood Borough like to enter an intermunicipal agreement to share equipment and personnel similar to what we have with Richmond Township?
I think that intermunicipal agreement, and I think Craig can speak to this, has worked out well in terms of our use of equipment and supplies.
Yes, it has. They had approached me. They currently subcontract street sweeping, and obviously we have a street sweeper, and with us doing our paving and stuff, we could certainly use some more trucks for hauling. That would be less trucks that I need to sublet and pay. So we had Diane and I had talked a little bit about some things that we thought we could share and help each other with, and I think there's enough there to make it worthwhile going into an agreement with them. So I had her contact Chris.
Okay. So
again, we don't need a motion as long as there's no one heavily objecting to it. I'll work with Diane. We'll get one between their solicitor and Andy.
get it drafted and then reviewed at a future meeting?
Yeah. Oh, correct. And we'd have to approve it.
Surely.
This is
the other thing too,
as long as no one has an objection.
Yeah. Sorry, one other thing too, in a municipal agreement with that, also in times like these in 19, say, our operators are their operators of their treatment plants and water systems come down, with this COVID all at the same time. Now we can help each other, in those means as well. So I think it's a win-win.
This is John. Would that be appropriate for the borough or for the authority to weigh in on in that case? Or is it just the system?
I think the employees are the borough's employees.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so there's no objections. We'll continue working on that. That's all I have for my update. Suzanne, you still with us?
Sorry, I was muted. I was talking to myself, so sorry. Moving on to the finance report with John Rothenberger for the annual audit results with Herbine.
So we met with Roxanne last week. Everybody should have received a summary from Herbine. The actual complete package is at the borough office for review if anybody wants to take a look at the whole package. But basically there were no findings in her audit. And we came out with, and I was looking for the right term that she used in here. Do you remember what that was, Chris?
Yeah. It's a very generic term that sounds like we're blah, but it's the highest rating we can get. It's like no findings or something like that.
Is that unrestricted? I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't have it written in front of me. So basically,
yeah, I don't either.
Heck was it?
Okay. That finding, in other words, everything was copacetic, everything that we're supposed to be doing, we're doing, and they didn't have recommendations about any issues that we had to take care of?
Correct.
That is. Yeah.
That's what we want to hear. That's excellent. Thank you. Okay, then we can move on to number 9, which is the water and sewer. Pete, John and Pete on the committee meeting.
Yeah, I can start out. A while back, we had a meeting with a few people from the Sewer Water Committee, with a few people from the authority. We came up with a new concept for how the authority and the borough would work together. The authority was formed in 1958, basically to build the sewer system. So the borough paid the authority to do that, and the authority owns the sewer system. That's been that way for 50 years. However, in the last few years, it's come up who's doing what, and then the authority doesn't have enough money, and then the borough pays for this, and the authority pays for that, and it's confusing. So to make it real clean, this is a concept, and it's agreed to by the sewer committee and the authority committee that we would move down the road to the borough collects all the money, does all the work, does all the maintenance on the sewer system, and does not pay the authority to do that kind of thing. The authority would still be in place. It's a valuable entity that we need, sewer and water, but down the road, and this is not going to happen tomorrow, this is something we got to work on. It's going to take a while, but we need to have the borough councils buy into that concept that down the road, the authority would not take in monies from the borough. The borough would retain the money and do all the work, do all the maintenance. It'd be a whole lot cleaner, and it's going to work a whole lot smoother. If anybody else has comment, I don't know if Denton's on here.
Denton was, he might be muted.
Does everybody understand what I just said?
Yes. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's going to be, and it's going to take a lot of work. There's all kinds of things involved. And, you know, the sewer water tap and freezer involved, and who's responsible for those. And, you know, everything's going to remain as is for this year. But down the road, the authority will remain in place. We must have an authority, sewer and water. But their duties will be different, probably reduced, but it really won't be that much more work for the borough, for the sewer and water guys and Craig, and we all agree on that.
And like Pete said, it's going to take some time. This is Craig. It's going to take some time to work out the details of how it's going to work in the future. And, you know, there may be a little bit of money that the authority may need from the borough, depending on what comes out of those meetings. Like if they're responsible to pay for some permits and those type of things, there might be a small exchange of money, but not to the amount that what it is now. And again, I think moving forward, it will work out smoother again.
This is Denton. If I could add to that, yes, we would be looking for some funds through the course of the year, as we have to retain our own solicitor. We may have to retain our own engineer. So there'll be fees involved with that, but not anywhere near to the current amount that we're looking at right now.
Yeah. So like I said, this is just a concept at this point, but we're all agreed on it, and the authorities agreed on it. And I couldn't stress more that they've done a wonderful job over the years. This is not something, you know, we're taking away from them or something because they didn't do it right. This is just, at this point in time, this is going to work way smoother than it has been in the last few years.
I think it simplifies day-to-day operations.
Okay, so Pete, you'll be working with your team as well with Andy to make sure that there's a smooth transition and that we've dealt with whatever the relative responsibilities to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, right?
Yes, Andy's in contact with Emma Rose, the authority's solicitor, and we're all working together on this. And this is not going to happen tomorrow. There is one thing that we need to do by December 31st, 2020. We need, and I'll read this, the Fleetwood Borough needs to amend the authority's charter. And what I know the word amend in this situation means to reauthorize the authority. And it's just a formality, and Andy and Emma are working on that. That's the only thing we really must do by the end of the year.
The authority has an expiration date, and it's the end of this year. Authorities have a shelf life, and the longest term that an authority can exist at any one time is 50 years. And that's basically out of the act that creates municipal authorities, whether it's parking authorities, sewer authority, water authorities, they all have a maximum life of 50 years. So that's what this does. This action by Borough Council would extend the authority's life for an additional 50 years. So it's just paperwork and a vote by council.
Okay. Well, then when that's ready, you can get that to us. And
We'll have it all to you.
This is Craig. That paperwork I gave to Chris, it was signed and sealed by the authority, the articles of amendment. It should be ready to go. It just takes action from the council. Okay.
We're getting there. Well, that's the articles of amendment that.
Right. And that's what he's discussing.
This is from 2014. This is the Borough, Fleetwood, Richmond Township, Ruska Manor. That's the only one I have. I think Andy's right. They're still working on the new. I have everything here, Craig, and that's not part of it. Because Andy,
there was two
you're not ready for the whole new.
Yeah, I don't think that was finalized yet by the authority.
Yeah, but keep in mind the borough created the authority, so we need to recreate them every 50 years or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I don't.
This is Denton. As I recall, you need to create a resolution to extend the authority's lifetime, and that would be for Tammy and the secretary to sign, I believe. I signed the last one as the mayor, so that was now expiring.
Right. It's for the president of council will sign, and then the mayor and the secretary. So we'll get that done by the end of this year for sure.
And then it has, I think the sewer authority chairman and secretary have to co-sign that with you.
I can't remember if they might do their own separate resolution.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll need both bodies to sign a resolution.
Okay. So then, Andy, you'll be working with the teams to get us the formalized paperwork and with Craig and Pete. And then once you get that to us, we can add it to the agenda whenever it's ready.
Right.
Perfect. Yes. Okay. Then if we can, I think we already talked about the, Chris, are you
Wait, hang on. Right. No, Suzanne, we need a point of order. If council could approve the committee concept or authorize John Rothenberger and Pete, as well as Craig and myself, to work with the sewer authority committee on what Pete just described. The sewer authority made a motion and gave their side approval to negotiate. We're looking for the same on the borough side.
Okay, then I need a motion to that effect. So Pete, are you making that motion?
Yeah, and we just need to say the authority. It's not just the sewer authority.
So sewer and water.
Correct.
Yes?
Yeah, but it's just called the authority. That's it.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Pete to move forward with the planning to consolidate or to take over some of the duties of the sewer, the former sewer and water authority or the authority back into Fleetwood. So do we have a second on that?
This is Jim. I'll second it.
Jim's got a second on that. Do I have any further discussion? Okay, Chris, if you'll do the roll then.
Sure. All right, I have like 13 pages in front of me. Suzanne,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
John Rothenberger.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous then. So that motion carries. Okay, moving forward, Chris, are we up to the DEP authority docs to sign?
Yes. So sent to you, sent to all of council was what you're seeing right now. It's the industrial pretreatment program for Sunsweet growers. It's set and there's a lot of pages there if Craig wants to describe it, but the authority or the Sunsweet has signed it. The Borough Fleetwood treatment plant operator, Tim, signed it. They need the borough secretary to acknowledge it. So council could be aware and okay, agree to do that.
This is basically an agreement for Sunsweet to the borough for them to discharge, and it stipulates all the perimeters and what their test result parameters need to be and those type of things in order to discharge treated waste into our system.
Okay, should I have a motion to authorize the borough secretary's signature on this?
John will make that motion.
John Rothenberger makes that motion. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second it, Pete.
That's Pete seconding that motion. Do I have any further discussion? Okay, Chris, take it away.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving forward, we already handled the tap-in fee ordinance with Pete, I believe, right, Pete?
Yes.
And then we can move forward now to the Vine Street Pump Station update from Craig.
Wait, no, there's another authority. Wait, there's another authority document that we have to sign.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
That's fine. This is the amendment to the agreement on June 10th, 2014. This is between the Fleetwood Borough Authority, Berks County, Borough of Fleetwood, Richmond Township, Ruska Manor. This is the intermunicipal water service agreement that was amended, and we need permission to sign it by the borough. Then we'll send it to the township. Then we'll send it to the Ruska Manor Township.
Do I have a motion from someone to authorize that signature?
I'll make the motion. It's Pete.
Pete makes the motion. Do I have a second, please?
John will second.
John seconds that. Do I have any further discussion?
Suzanne, this is Denton. If I could, Chris, Rusker Manor was in agreement to joining that intermunicipal agreement.
They're still negotiating, discussing the need for it. So at this point, we're signing it in anticipation of.
All right, thank you.
Chris, if we have no further discussion, can you run the roll, please?
I can. Suzanne?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
John Rothenberger?
Yeah.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we can move back.
And Craig, we have to,
I'm sorry.
Craig, we have to talk tomorrow. There's some papers here that aren't signed by the authority, so. Okay.
Okay.
Continue. Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Moving along, we handled the tap-in fee with Pete. We're moving to the Vine Street Pump Station update from Craig, please.
Yeah, this is an authority project, but just to keep you guys up to snuff, you know, we had a lot of issues at the Vine Street Pump Station and all the wet weather over the last few years. The authority put out a contract to increase the pump size, put in a new generator, and fence that site in, along with upsizing some pipe. So that project has been let, and we're waiting on certificates of insurance and bonds to come back, which should be back hopefully by the end of this week, early next week, and that will go into pre-construction phase, and then work will soon begin. The electric upgrade has already been done by MedEd, so should be a relatively quick project.
Craig, was this to replace the temporary ones or did we have some, I thought we had some temporary pumps or some auxiliary pumps at one point. Is this to increase the size overall?
It's to increase the size of the pumps that are permanently in there. We do have a portable mobile pump that we have used pretty often down in that application, but that shouldn't be needed anymore once this project is done. Not in that particular pump station.
Okay.
We'll hold on to that pump in case of an emergency, but yes, we have been using that down there.
And should everything go forward, what's the timing on that project?
If we have pre-construction within the next week or two here, they should probably start relatively soon and be finished by late fall.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, moving on to public safety. Ralph, you've got a fire company update?
Yes, Public Safety Committee received the letter that's attached notifying us that the fire company wants to purchase a new truck, turn in their old truck. They want to replace the 22-year-old fire truck and replace it with a $700,000 rescue truck. The committee's of the opinion that we support this, and I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Touch. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Pete.
I have a second by Mr. Merkel. Do I have any further discussion? Okay.
What do they do with the old truck?
They're selling it and putting the money towards a new one. They anticipate $40,000 and $55,000 for the old truck.
Okay. We have no further discussion. Chris, if you wouldn't mind taking the roll for the voting.
Suzanne, have I minded up to this point?
No, but I'm trying to be considerate of your feelings because I'm taxing you today.
No, I'm just getting punchy, that's all. Roll call. Suzanne?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark Watkins?
Yes.
Ralph Touch?
Yes.
Colin Boyer?
Yes.
John Rothenberger?
Yes.
That motion carries as unanimous. Okay, moving on. Oh my goodness.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry. I put down I just in a second, I lost my agenda just that fast. Okay, moving on to number 11, the Public Works reports from Craig, the street paving plan. Or actually, is it Craig, do you have a separate report from Jim?
Jim might want to take this. Jim, you want to take the paving report?
Sure, I'll take it. Thanks. So as everyone knows, for 2020, our street project work, our original budget was $200,000, and that included money both from the capital
and liquid fuels. Craig and I had a discussion. Craig brought forth that we're not going to use the capital because that was put on hold. And he looked at the projects that he had scheduled for 2020, and he proposed that we use liquid fuels to be used on the streets, just the liquid fuels only. And the reason that we propose with going forward with that with doing that is right now there's no school, there's less traffic because of the COVID issue. Also, the borough workers, with some of the other projects put on hold, their availability is a little bit better right now since there's no pool or park projects or community center projects, are very limited. So there's definitely time available for them to handle this. So that those were the important issues. So originally our budget was $200,000. I believe we cut it down to $140,000, which would be liquid fuels only. And some of the main streets that would be touched would be Spring Street, from Forest to back to Forest again, Westfield Place, cul-de-sac off of Spring Street, North Richmond Street from West Main to West Washington Street, North Chestnut Street from West Washington Street to West Arch Street, and then there were some alleys that, depending on how much money we have, that would also be taken care of. So that's our proposal. Craig, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, the reason that we proposed, at least using the liquid fuels is, liquid fuels for 2020 is already here. It's been here. It wasn't affected by the COVID or the tax bases. It may very well be affected next year, but we'll take that into consideration when we do next year's budget, because we'll know by November, maybe even prior to that, what our next year's liquid fuel allocation will be. So I started notifying residents today. The equipment will be coming later on this week, and we're plans to go on Monday, starting Monday next week. So
Sounds like a plan. Any further discussion from anybody? Craig, do we use liquid fuel monies for salt purchasing, or are we good with that? We're not concerned?
we are full for the beginning of this season. We didn't spend any money in 2020 on salt, and I don't expect to unless we get a winter starting in October, but the salt shed is full. We use a little bit of liquid fuels, and there still will be a little remaining. We may have to purchase some salt out of the general next year, which we did in previous years as well, since we started our paving upgrade plan.
Okay, sounds good. Andy, do we need any kind of motion to have them go forward? It sounds like plan was in process. So I don't think, right?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay, moving along, do we have any walk-in items that need to be addressed? Chris, anything you're aware of?
Craig's report is still there. I don't know if Craig had anything to highlight on his report.
Craig, anything else?
Unless you have any questions for me, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, unless you have any questions. My only other question would be is Pete had mentioned the yellow chain on the tapered concrete at the Foundry Alley side of the Tannery lot. Would you guys like that installed prior to you guys putting out the press release and us opening that lot?
This is John. I think that'd be a good idea if we can.
Okay.
Right.
I have it here. I just wanted to wait till after tonight to see what was decided.
Right, you just want to make sure that if there's something that is of a concern, that it's marked off appropriately so that anybody walking there, whether it be in the evening or anything, is aware so that they don't, have any issues.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I mean, that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions for me.
Doesn't sound like they do, Craig. Sounds like you're good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. So Chris, any walk-in items, anything additional that we didn't touch on that need to be addressed?
Not to my knowledge.
How about the bills?
That's next. We're going. We're right there. So, we need to, well, I'll leave this to Mr. Rothenberger to fill us in on what has to happen with the bills.
So Chris, do you have a list of the dates?
So we have the current month's bills.
Yeah.
We start most current and move our way back.
Sure. So I make a motion that we pay the current month's bills.
So John, did you just make a motion?
I did.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yes.
That was a second from Mr. Touch. Do I have any further discussion? Okay. Chris, would you call the roll, please?
Yep. Suzanne?
Yes?
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Did you hear
Colin?
me? He said yes.
Colin?
Yes. I didn't hear you call my.
And John?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
That's-
Unfortunately, it's going to be a while because we have a bunch of these to go through.
Five of them.
that was the current motion, right, Chris?
That was
That
the
was for
first
the
month.
current month, correct.
Okay. And then what we have, what?
Backing up,
Okay.
it's May 26th bills.
I make a motion to pay the May 26 bills. This is John.
Ratify.
Is there any reason we couldn't
Ratify.
authorize to do all three
Ratify.
bills together, or is there an issue with something?
You
I think
could, I can give you all three dates, and if anybody objects.
I think Andy in the past has recommended we do these independently.
Okay, no problem. Then I apologize. Were you making the motion for the 26th, John?
Let me belay that for a minute. And Andy, can you weigh in on that? I think we have at least 3 or 4 more.
3 more.
I think it is appropriate that you do them independently.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I'm making a motion that we pay the May 26th. Excuse me. I'm asking that we making a motion to ratify the payment of the May 26th bills.
This is Mark. I second it.
Okay, do I have any further discussion? Chris, would you call the roll, please?
Suzanne?
Yes?
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
May 11th is the next one.
Okay, that was a unanimous vote on the May 26th bill. Moving on to the May 11th bills, do we have a motion to ratify?
John would like to make a motion to ratify the bills that were paid on May 11th of 2020.
Okay, do we have a second, please?
Yes.
It is Jim, yes.
I have a second by Mr. Touch. I think he beat you, Jim, sorry.
That's cool.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Chris, if you'd call the roll, please.
Suzanne?
Yes?
Pete?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to the next, is that the April 20th ratification?
April
Yes.
27th? April 27th?
I have 20th on the agenda, but it could be the 27th. I apologize.
It would have been the 20th. Oh, no, wait, I'm off. It is the 20th. Sorry.
27.
27th, you're right.
27th, okay.
So John would like to make a motion to ratify the bills paid on April the 27th of 2020.
Okay, and do I have a
There you go.
second?
Yes.
I have a second by Mr. Touch. Do I have any further discussion? Chris, if you wouldn't mind polling the council?
Absolutely. Suzanne,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes. Can you
Jim.
go a little faster?
Yes.
We need a yes first. Mark,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
John,
John would like to make a motion, yes. Yes is yes.
and that's all I have.
Okay, that's unanimous then
that's
for the
all I have.
last bit of bills. John, anything else from you?
No, I don't believe I do. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Moving forward on the, I think the last portion of our agenda, we have approved the previous minutes. They're for the April 13th and the May 11th minutes. May I have a motion to authorize the April 13th minutes, please?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Touch. Do I have a second, please?
Pete, second.
Pete makes a second on that motion. Do I have any further discussion? Then if we could call the roll, please.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ralph, Colin,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
That motion carries. Can we move on to the May 11th minutes, please? May I have a motion to authorize those minutes?
I'll make
More,
up.
so moved.
That was Mr. Watkins, was it not, who made the motion?
Yes.
And do I have a second, please?
John will second.
John seconds that John Rothenberger seconds that motion. Do I have any further discussion on the May 11th minutes? Chris, if you'd call the roll, please.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Colin,
I abstain.
Colin, the
John
ba-
Rothenberg.
Oops, sorry. I was just going to ask Colin what the basis for the abstention was, for the record.
I didn't review them for personal reasons, so I didn't review them.
That's okay. That's fine. Chris, go ahead.
John Rothenberger,
Yes.
Okay, we've got a quorum on that motion, so that motion carries as well. Okay, I don't have anything else on the calendar that I'm aware of. Anything else that's come up that we can go around the table? Chris, anything else from you?
no,
You're all talked out. Okay, Pete, anything else from you?
I am.
No.
Jim?
No.
Mark?
No.
Ralph?
No.
Colin?
No, it's getting past my bedtime, so I think we need to go.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting punchy. I know that's for sure. John Rothenberger?
About 15, no, nothing, thanks.
Okay, Tammy, anything from you want to wrap up with?
Absolutely not.
Okay, Andy, you good then as well?
I'm good, but thanks for asking.
Okay, and Chris, you're good as well, right?
Suzanne, this is Denton.
Okay,
Suzanne?
Denton? Yes?
On behalf of my fellow veterans and myself, I want to thank the borough for their action and the rec board for their action on completing those hometown hero banners and getting them hung up in the park so promptly. And Chris was instrumental in that effort. He should have a special note for that. And I want to say thank you. Like I say, it means a lot to my fellow veterans and myself.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm so glad. Chris does a great job. He really does. And Karen Crosley, president of the rec board. So they do a lot of hard work. But I'm glad. And you know what? As this whole thing passes, we'll be able to have more and better celebrations where we can all be together. So we're all looking forward to that as well. But thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Amen.
Absolutely.
You're all welcome. I did what was asked of me at that time, and I'm very proud and happy to say that I've done it. But please don't ask me to do it again.
We won't. You just enjoy the banners, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan, this is John. If I can throw one more thing Craig's way, speaking of the banners, on Fleetwood Avenue down by Arch Street. The hangers there's a couple hangers that are not, looks like they came damaged in the wind or something.
Okay.
Yeah, we had just tightened a lot of them up. The latest storm must have loosened them up. We'll take a look at them.
Please,
Appreciate it,
Craig,
thanks.
make sure that they stay up
Sure.
and nothing hits the ground. That would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, I think that's everything. And if someone will make a motion to close out this meeting, that would be great.
I'll make the motion.
I'm on a motion for Mr. Touch. Do I have a second? Come on, one of you souls must want to get out of here.
John will make the second.
John makes the second. Okay. Chris, do we have any further discussion on that? I'm going to guess no, but anything? Okay, Chris, can you do the final roll for the evening?
I'd be glad to.
I'm so happy
Emphasis
they're
on
you.
final. Yeah. Suzanne.
Yes.
Rick. Suzanne. Pete.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Ralph.
Yes.
Colin.
Yes. Yes.
John Rothenberger. Yep. Good night, all.
Thank you
Good night.
everybody for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.